In compliance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, entitled Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as specified in the Act. Proper notice of this public meeting was provided in the notice of January 8, 2018. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the Board of Education office, mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk, advertised in the Nutley Sun and Star Ledger on January 18, 2018, posted on the district website. This is an official meeting. In consideration of all here present and in recognition of the importance of these proceedings, it is requested that all cell phones be turned off or silenced for the duration of the meeting. Thank you. Please rise for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mrs. Kaduza.
Mr. Carnisella?
Here.
Mrs. Dancheck-Martin?
Here.
Mr. Ferrara?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Here.
Mr. Scalera?
Here.
On Tuesday, November 16, 2018, the annual school board election for the Nutley School District was held. Voting was conducted for the election of 3 members of the Board of Education, each for a 3-year term. The results of the election were as follows. Kenneth J. Riley, 4,586. Teresa Quirk, 3,818. Erica Zarro, 4,052. Salvatore Balsamo, 3,533. Ryan Klein, 3,157. Deborah J. Russo, 3,778. The candidates elected were Kenneth J. Riley, Erica Zarro, and Teresa Quirk for 3-year terms. A copy of this report will be entered into the official minutes of the Board of Education. At this time, we are going to ask the 3 elected candidates, as well as our newly appointed candidate, Mr. DeMayo, please come to the microphone. Members of their family may join them, and they will be administered the oath of office.
Whoever's on the suburbs go home. Sorry, you're going to say your name first. I state your name.
I, Kenneth J. Riley,
I, Frank A. DeMayo.
I, Erica Zarro.
I, Teresa Quirk,
Do solemnly swear. Oh, sorry, raise your right hand.
sorry,
Do solemnly swear
do
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to
and
the
to the
government established in the United States
and this state
and this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I state your name.
I, Kenneth J. Riley,
I, Frank A. DeMayo.
I, Erica Zarro.
I, Teresa Quirk,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
That
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
am not disqualified as a voter
am not disqualified as a voter
pursuant to RS 19:4-1,
pursuant
Pursuant
to
to
RS
RS
19:4-1,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
perform all duties of that office
perform all duties of that office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, Ms. Riley, for administering the oath of office. At this time, if each of the candidates could please make their way over to Mrs. Kukuza, she has something for you to sign.
Mr. Riley?
At this moment in time, nominations are now in order for the office of President of the Board of Education.
I would like to nominate Ken Riley for president.
Trustee Riley is nominated. Are there any further nominations for the office of President?
Yes, I nominate Dan Carnicella for position of president to the Nutley Board of Ed. Dan has done an amazing job navigating this board through some very difficult situations with a calm, fair, open-minded, and most important, an inclusive leadership approach. Dan has worked tirelessly to make sure that the concerns and opinions of each board member were heard and considered, while always recognizing the many differing opinions and views of the public, the administration, and the student body. As with any decision, there will always be those that agree and those that disagree. However, in every case where the minority disagreed, Dan made sure that their voices were heard and considered prior to a final decision. Given the challenges facing this Nutley Board of Education, it is important for this board to maintain that same leadership approach.
Trustee Carnicella is nominated. Are there any further nominations for President of the Board of Ed? There being no further nominations, it is now declared that the nominations are closed. Mrs. Kukuza, please take the roll call vote for Trustee Riley for President.
Mr. Carnicella?
No.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
No.
Mr. DeMayo?
No.
Mr. Ferraro?
No.
Mr. Kaczynski?
No.
Mrs. Quirk?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
No.
Ms. Sarah?
Yes.
Since the no votes are in a majority, Trustee Riley is not elected. Mrs. Kukuza, please take the roll call for Trustee Carnicella for President.
Mr. Carnicella?
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Quirk?
No.
Mr. Riley?
No.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Ms. Sarah?
No.
As there is a majority in favor of this nomination, Trustee Carnicella is elected as president. Mr. President, please assume the chair.
Well, I'd like to thank the board for their support. I did put a couple of words together for everybody. I'd like to welcome our newly sworn-in trustees, Mr. DeMayo, who was selected to fill Ms. Sherman's remaining term, as well as our newly elected trustees, Ken Riley, Terry Quirk, and Eric Azzaro. We welcome additional ideas and views that will continue to charge us as trustees to the Board of Education. I would like to thank the board for supporting my leadership role for 2019 and look forward to another successful school year. And I'm confident that the oversight of this 9-member board will continue to provide the highest level of learning opportunities for students, maintain our fiscal responsibility to our taxpayers, and promote the traditions and cultures we've become accustomed to here in Nutley. As stated in our mission statement, the Nutley Board of Education is guided by the mission of the Nutley Public Schools to challenge, inspire, and empower students to become creative, confident, passionate, self-directed citizens who actively and purposely contribute to our global society. Thank you. Okay, nominations are now in order for vice presidents.
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Charlie Kaczynski for the Vice President of the Board. As you know, Charlie was on the board many years ago and then came back. He's been very committed to the Board of Education, has grandchildren in the school district, and has supported many things for the good of our school, from our early childhood program to preschool to other things. So I'd like to submit his name for Vice President.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations for the office of Vice President?
I would like to nominate Ken Riley for Vice President.
Are there any further nominations for the office of Vice President? Being no further nominations, the nominations are now closed. Ms. Kukuzik, would you please take a roll call for Mr. Kaczynski?
Mrs. Dancheck Martin.
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk.
No.
Mr. Riley.
No.
Mr. Scalera.
Yes.
Ms. Sarah.
No.
Mr. Carnicella.
Mr. Carnicella.
Yes. Okay, as there is a majority in favor of this nomination, Trustee Charlie Kaczynski is elected Vice President. Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, we're going to turn it over to our superintendent for a superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to a new year, to the first Board of Education meeting of 2019, and welcome to our new Board of Education members. For all of us, the new year can mean a fresh start, some much-needed change, or a continuation of success and progress. What the new year brings to each of us depends a great deal on what each of us bring to the new year. And as you know, every month as I give my report, I tell you that it's like a new chapter in a book. And each of us gets to write that story by setting goals. So even in the very short time we've been back in district, it has been very busy with goal setting and looking forward. Our strategic plan committees have continued to meet. We're looking forward to the first reports in February and March and hearing those first year action items Our demographer has been back at work looking at our projected enrollment, the development that's happened since 2016, the available space in our schools and our town. We're going to have a preliminary report from Dr. Haber later in the month, and we do expect to schedule our 3rd annual Joint Board of Commissioners Planning and Zoning Board meeting in February. That's the time where we share the changes since the previous demographer's report. This time that'll be since 2016. We'll also, at that time, in January, have a report on the financial audit that was conducted by the district and our performance report of student academics and student progress. While there's nothing really magical about the flip of a calendar page to a new year, it really does represent a clean break, new hope, a blank canvas for continuing to move all of us forward. And in that vein, we'll also be at our Board of Education meeting sharing progress on our negotiations with the Education Association of Nutley, the development of the district budget, the development of our district calendar, as well as a number of other things. I quote this often, but I'll share it again. It's said to achieve greatness, you have to love and be in love with what you're doing. I am blessed to get to do that every single day with a wonderful faculty, staff, administration, and Board of Education that not only represents this district, but continues to move the mission, vision, and needle forward every single day. I thank you for the gift of doing what I love and getting to do it with all of you. Thank you. Looking forward to another wonderful year. Happy New Year.
Okay, we now come to a portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments only on the resolutions addressed in tonight's agenda. Our board regulation 601 allot 20 minutes for these communications. Each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within the requirement. Speakers may speak more than once only after the others wishing to speak on a topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to me as the chairperson, and no one may address the board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. And please remember to always state your name and address each and every time you address the board and sign this conclusive before you take the microphone. Will the first person wishing to be heard please step forward? This is for resolutions. Seeing none. We have one resolution. Charlie, you want to move that, Mr. Kaczynski?
Certainly, Mr. President, I move resolution, you talking about the code of ethics or
The adoption.
the administration of the adoption of...
these first.
Sorry, these first.
Okay. Move the code of ethics for school board members, 18A.12-24.1. There's a list of 10 ethical Board of Education information that we have to have. We care to read it, or?
You can read it if you like. If you like, you can start it. I'll take over and we can move it around
Okay.
the table.
What are we
Go
doing?
ahead, read.
Okay. A school board member shall abide by the following code of ethics for school board members. I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures.
Ready, you want to take the first?
I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools and meet the individual needs of all children regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing.
Mr. Ferrer?
I will confine my board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal, and I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them.
Ms. Quirk?
I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run.
Mr. Riley?
I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board.
Ms. Zarrow?
I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups, or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends.
Mr. DeMayo.
I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information and in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its schools.
Ms. Dancheck Martin.
I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer.
I will support and protect school personnel and proper performance of their duties. You can throw this out to us.
I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administration solution. I shall move those resolutions.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Ms. Arrow?
Yes.
Mr. Carnasella?
Yes. Ms. Dancheck Martin, would you take administration resolution?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move Administration Resolution 1 as written.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Cruz.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Mr. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Ms. Arrow?
Yes.
Mr. Carnasella?
Yes. Okay, in this section, we allow questions or comments on all school-related matters. Our regulation allows 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. As stated earlier, all questions and statements will be directed to me as the chairperson, and no one may address the board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to always state your name and address each and every time you address the board, and sign in with Mr. Ragusa before you take the microphone. Would the first person wishing to be heard please step forward?
Hi, is this on?
It is. Hit the buttons.
I first want to address Mr. Riley, Ms. Darrow, Ms. Quirk, and just welcome you and say congratulations, and I really look forward to seeing what you bring to the table. Hopefully it's not more of the same, and I trust that it isn't. The remainder of my comments, however, are directed to the holdovers from last year's board, and I had come here today feeling very positive, like I have so many times before, fully intending to address you by saying, you know, last year was a very contentious, I think we can all agree, contentious and divisive year between the public and the board on a number of issues. And I thought, what better time than to hit the reset button and start fresh. This was a new year for new beginnings, where we could have started over. I have to now change what I was going to say because clearly, based on the vote for president and vice president, there is no change. Nobody plans on making a change. I just want to comment that I think that the election in November wasn't just an election of individuals. There was a third referendum on the ballot in November. That referendum was a referendum on the actions taken by the board. It was a statement of how people felt about the conduct and the actions that took place last year. The statement overwhelmingly was that people wanted change. Overwhelmingly, people were unhappy. The vote on the referendum to expand the schools was pretty close, almost a 50-50 split. The same cannot be said about the vote on the candidates. And I do believe that the candidates were elected as a statement, more than anything, that people wanted something new. And by starting off the new year tonight, by re-electing last year's president, and it's nothing against you personally, Mr. Carnasella, I'd feel the same if it was someone else. And as vice president, someone who's been vice president, president back and forth for the last few years, it's a clear message to us that you guys didn't get the message last year. And with that said, I'm going to leave my final remarks for our newest member, Mr. DeMayo, and welcome you too, and congratulations. I was excited to have another new face. But you weren't around last year. We were here, I was here for probably just about every meeting, not quite every meeting last year. And I was witness to the debates that went on between the people, the public, not just myself, but a number of people, and that board. I witnessed the condescension, I witnessed the disdain, I witnessed people get dismissed. And I will again remind you what I said last year, about a little less than a year ago to each of you on this board, was that as representatives, it is not for you to supplant your opinion for that of the people. It is for you to represent the interests and the desires of your electorate. Now, sometimes that involves a weighing and a balancing of differing interests. But last year, it was very clear to me that the only decisions were made based on your own interests. And when I asked everybody last year if you would show yourselves and show where you stood on the issue, on an issue, I was told that you were a unit. And while I can appreciate that there are times when you absolutely need to work together to be effective at running this district and improving this district, there are also times that you have to acknowledge that you were elected individually as individuals. And sometimes we expect you. We expect some healthy opposition. We didn't vote for a unit. We voted for individuals. Now, I gave you multiple opportunities last year to answer my question. You wouldn't, and you again reiterated that you were a unit. And Mr. DeMayo, my advice to you in the future, and of course you have your own mind and will do what you will, but my advice to you is be an individual and not a unit. Because that is what the electorate deserves from each and every one of you. Thank you.
Moore, 462 Chestnut Street. Mr. President, I do want to welcome the 3 new members, Mr. DeMayo. And next year, we'll have another opportunity to put 3 new members on as well. I do have one question. The 2 bond issues that you were looking for were voted down. And if I understand the process, you're only putting in 3 trailers to alleviate the school right now. Is that correct?
At this point, we have the demographer coming in to do his study, as Dr. Glazer stated. The purpose of that is to identify, with the new development that's taking place, as to whether or not another 3 trailers on top of the ones that we already have will be sufficient to carry the load.
But right now, it's only 3.
We have no idea.
We don't know that number, and that's why we're looking for the demographer's report.
So what is the construction? I know you're doing some construction here on the side, because the taxpayers, the municipality side, helped purchase the building.
Correct.
And I believe there was a double-story trailer that's going in?
Where? I don't.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
There's no information on any trailers going onto the Davis.
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out.
That's not correct.
Any other schools?
At this point, there's no decision
There's
being
no
made
trailers
until-
at all?
We're not saying that there's not gonna be any trailers. What we're saying is upon the information that we're gonna have from the demographer, we will have to make a decision as to what additional space we're going to need immediately.
The reason I'm asking is because I remember Mr. Kaczynski several years ago when they were doing the middle school. And I remember you were arguing for the color of a brick, that you wanted to make sure that the bricks matched perfectly. because you didn't want to be able to look at the school and figure out where maintenance was done, where an expansion was done. And tonight when Mr. Sklar read his ethics, that reminded me of that. Because we're spending more money on what the schools look like rather than what's going on in the schools. I belong to Toastmasters in Rutherford. They took over the bottom of the Rutherford Library, the schools, the classrooms. They searched out every place that there was an available classroom to accommodate students. They didn't just run out and build them. But I was very bothered by that, because if we're really concerned about helping the children, why are we worrying about the color of a brick? Could you explain that?
I can explain that if you'd like. I mean,
Please.
what we don't want, if we have a building that is currently red brick, and the price was the same for the red brick as it was for the brown brick.
I don't think it was the same. I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't think
But I
it's
was
the
gonna
same.
say, but we don't know that, right? And we're gonna say that everything is equal, but if the red brick, there's different tones of red brick. So to make sure that the red bricks match what we already have would make good sense, since the school's gonna be there and that extension's gonna be there for the remainder of the life of that building. So we would ultimately try to put a building that looks consistent, rather than taking the building and putting red brick and then the addition brown brick and then adding another set of red bricks down the road.
Because I had seen on Facebook, on the postings, so many people started to see color, pictures of the trailers, what the trailers would look like. And they weren't as they were described before the bond issue was advertised. And I'd just like to move forward. Do you really care about the kids if you want to worry about the color of a brick?
Well, I don't think that's two of the same questions. I think that if we're doing a construction project and they bring the wrong brick to the site, we need to have that corrected, right?
I don't think it was a wrong brick.
But you're not certain of the story, correct?
No, I remember the story specifically.
Okay.
It was the tone, it was the color of the brick, it was a nuance.
Mr. Moore, we're going, if I can.
Sure.
If we're going to spend 30 or 40 or 70 million dollars to get the right amount of classrooms for our children, architecturally, down the road, we were hoping that architecturally, the building would fit into the atmosphere. That's all we were looking for. The
I thought it was
children
the
and
best
the
we
rooms are
could.
more important than the brick colors, there's no doubt about that.
Okay.
But in our final picture, it should look like we have now. I wouldn't want the appearance of John Walker Middle School to change, except take in more children.
I was just curious, I just want to make sure that we're concerned about the children and not property
The
values.
the children is always our primary focus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Seeing none.
Ralph Chimento, 74 Mapes Avenue. Again, I'd like to congratulate the four new members, and hopefully we can have a little change here. Two concerns I have. A is, where do we stand on security? Because I'm understanding that it's only in high school and middle school. Is that correct or incorrect?
That is correct.
Okay, what's your plan for the grammar schools?
The plan now is what we have in place is what we're considering, and if there's any further conversation on that, we can have it as a board.
So there's no plans for anything?
At this point, the first steps were to get the two security officers in the middle school and the high school.
Okay.
And then also fortify our buildings like we've been doing. If you were here for some of the meetings, some of the resolutions that we've
I watch
passed is
every
putting.
meeting.
Okay, so we're gonna be putting the electronic swipes in, we're doing changes to doors, adding additional
Yeah,
cameras.
but my question is armed security in every school, for every child. Anything less would be unacceptable. Okay, that's my first point. My second point is this. I have a sign on my lawn supporting the school teachers. I'm getting tired of looking at it. Can we do something here? I mean, the superintendent praises our teachers, praises them, but yet we won't work anything out for them. Can we just get this over with? Because it's an eyesore driving around the town looking at these damn signs. I mean, it really is, and it's kind of pathetic that we can't settle a contract. I mean, the administrators all got raises. Everyone settle there. Let's just get this over with.
Mr. Shamento.
You want to keep the best here? We have the best teachers. We have the best teachers. We have great numbers. We have the best teachers. And that's all I hear, meeting after meeting after meeting. And we're praising our teachers. But yet, we don't take care of our teachers. So, hopefully, collectively, you can get together and get something accomplished there, because this is just dragging on way too long. And I want the sign off my lawn. All right, so those are my two concerns, and I'll be back here every week until we get security. Every month I'll be here until we get security in every one of our schools to protect our children and our staff. And anything less than security in every one of our schools, armed security, will not be acceptable. Thank you.
Hi. I just have one quick question.
It's not on. It's not
Yes,
on.
yes, yes.
There you go. You found
You
it.
don't need a microphone, just talk.
I just have one quick question. Washington School's secure entrance, it's wonderful, it's great. When is the buzzer going to work so that the office staff doesn't have to get up every 5 seconds to let everybody in? That's all I want to know.
So you saw the vendor agreement and the contract that with the company that's doing all the swipes? Washington School, the middle school, is the priority starting point. They're ready to go. I'm not sure if they've, I'm looking for Ian. I don't see him in this big room in that corner. I don't see him.
He's back there.
Nope.
He's back there, he
They
is.
started.
They haven't actually come on site yet.
They're not on site, they're planning, but they're the first places that that vendor does the
So
work.
time frame, a month, weeks?
I think should be
Their
weeks.
total estimate from contract signing to complete was 2 months.
There you go. So, because we're doing work in every building.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael Odier, 133 High Street. I just want to congratulate Zorro and Riley and Quirk for their decisive victory at this. And we do care about the children, but we also have to care about the homeowners. So whatever you're budgeting this year, please make sure it's at affordable levels for us homeowners to pay. Because I'm sick and tired of not just those signs that the other gentleman was talking about, but I'm also sick and tired of seeing fellow Nutley homeowners getting property taxed out of this town. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to be heard? Seeing none, can we have a motion to go into adjournment, please?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.